Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our weekly speaker series for the Paranormal Research Symposium. My name is Alex Matsuo, and I am the founder and the director of the Association of Paranormal Study, as well as the Symposium chair. Every Monday, we actually interview our speakers for the upcoming symposium. We do this on a weekly basis leading up to the actual event. So, this is going to give you all a chance to get to know our speakers and give you a chance to ask questions. You'll get an inside look at their presentations, their knowledge, and it's gonna be a wonderful event. And this year's symposium is brought to you by Ghostly Images of Gettysburg, Ghosted Magazine, Gold Dust Publishing, and Lauren Hunt's. Before we get rocking and rolling, everybody, if you're watching right now, let us know in the chat. You can get your tickets to the Paranormal Research Symposium today if you go to associationofparanormalstudy.com or check the chat on Facebook. You will see a direct link to purchase tickets. So come join us. It's going to be a good time. While we're here in the chat, let me know where you are watching from. Let's see how far we can get with this series. Last week we had our speaker Glennie Sewell, who was actually coming to us from London. So he was a trooper coming in at 1 a.m. but we also had viewers from Ireland, all over the country, all over the United States. So yeah, feel free to chime in the chat. Let us know you're here and let us know where you're streaming from. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our esteemed guests for this evening. So we have Skyler Louise or Lewis.
Louise,
perfect. And then we have Kjersti. So welcome, you two.
Welcome.
Yeah. How are y'all doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's going to be a good time. So before we get started, some of y'all who were watching the last couple of weeks saw that I was reading the bios and everything. I decided I'm not going to do that anymore because who better to speak about their experiences and who they are than the guests themselves. So Skyler and Kjersti, if you don't mind, if you could introduce yourself, and let's start with Skyler.
Okay. Hi, I'm Skyler Louise. I've been doing paranormal investigating for maybe like 4 years now. So I'm very new to it, like comparatively from what I've heard. But I got into it based on some experiences I've had since I was young, but was like repressed away from. More recently, I have gotten into doing research like this kind of stuff. I also, on the topic that I'm presenting, I really want to write a book. So I want to be more expansive with my ideas. But I also do the Paranormal X Queer archival project on Substack. And that's sort of like a passion project that I want to expand upon throughout my entire life. Like I really positioned myself to kind of think about how I could sustain doing paranormal work. And it was an idea that sort of almost spiritually came to me, like something I was meant to do. And so it's just like a special collections effort to bridge that gap between marginalization and liminality and see if we can collect stories. I have like a library I'm starting, like just so much cool stuff coming to me. And I want to expand more on that as well as I move forward in the paranormal. So that's like the biggest project I have going on right now.
Awesome. Kjersti.
Hi, I'm Kjersti. I go by KJ. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and I have loved the paranormal my entire life. And the great stay-at-home order of 2020 kind of got me back down the rabbit hole of ghost TV shows and high strangeness and just kind of revisiting what I liked so much as a kid. And it's brought me far in the 6 years that I've started researching everything that I liked so much. And so I'm not only presenting with you guys, I've done some speaking engagements about my stone tape theory. I have some published articles. I kind of do a lot of personal essays and travel essays. And I'm also a tour guide for Mad City Ghost Walks here in Madison. So I like to give spooky tours of our historic downtown. And we actually have cemetery tours happening now in the summer. So once it's it's not so hot out. I don't know how it is where you guys are, but it's like 90 and humid and I hate it. And so once it's reasonable to go outside and take a walk in the shade, I have some groups going out. So I talk about cemetery history and symbolism and some paranormal stories within. So it's a great field to network with people. It's a very female driven, I wanted to use the word entity, and that seems fitting here. So I'm going to roll with that. So I'm just excited to network with fellow paranormals and learn some more stories along the way.
Awesome. Nice. We have Mike tuning in from New Jersey. Hey, New Jersey. I was just there this weekend and I saw Mike. Awesome. And then we have on YouTube, John Michael is saying, oh, hey, everyone. And then Skyler, looks like you got some love from Rochelle.
Nice.
I don't know why it's not coming up with the white background, but just say, oh, there it is. There it is. Yes, love this. All right. Cool. Nice. Okay. Well, wow. Having y'all introduce yourselves is way easier and better. So noted for Alex for future streams. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask both of you the same question, and then I'll veer off into your own, your own personal journeys and whatnot. So first of all, because since y'all I know you're both speaking at the symposium, Skyler will actually be joining us online for the symposium right before. So Skyler will be joining us on a virtual aspect. So actually, which is great because more people can actually enjoy Skyler's presentation. So that's going to be exciting. So let's start with Kjersti this time. Can you go over what you're going to be presenting at the symposium this year?
Yes, I am doing a presentation on the stone tape theory and some of the science behind residual hauntings. And some people might be familiar with stone tape, some people might not. My elevator pitch, essentially, it's almost easier to talk for an hour about it than it is to talk for a minute about it. So I like this challenge. I should have prepared better, but I think it's approaching the paranormal as not these conscious entities or spirits that are trying to talk with us. Yes, some do, but it's the other end of the spectrum is that they are simply images that are just replayed, that have been recorded into the environment, like a tape recorder. And there's a lot of fantastic research and psychology and human anatomy and understanding just who we are as a quantum being and how that can sort of present itself as a paranormal phenomenon. So it's exciting. I'm really excited. I've been working on my paper tonight, so I'm ready to talk weird and stone tape theory, especially in a place like Gettysburg, which is like paranormal Disney World over there. So bring it on.
Well, especially, I don't know if you've looked at the geological makeup of Gettysburg, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Your eyes are getting big and excited. That's cool. Yeah.
It's all granite, which is quartz, which is a conductor. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So my presentation.
Yes. Nice. All right, Skyler, what will you be sharing for the symposium via webinar?
Yeah, so I am going to present Groove Theory, a paper on using shufflemancy to strengthen psychic connections. And essentially, this is a theory that illustrates how shufflemancy compares to the Estes method a little bit. It's very similar, but it's also very different. How to practice like a medium would, symbolic understanding within the methods themselves, to sort of draw out message interpretation from not only spirits, but kind of like what you're saying, like whatever residual thing is out there, what the message might be, symbology guides us to that. And then a step further, using the muse as an entity, sort of like as an example, because the muse, right, is very conducive to the musical experience, to the artistic experience, to the creative experience. And so I draw on the entity to sort of explain how like shufflemancy has its own thing going on without pressing too much into getting something else to talk to us. And so these methods that we have, they're very conducive to these personalized experiences based on who uses them and what happens in them, kind of like the precognitive tin can that Connor sees in Hellier, where it's not just like speaking directly to spirits, but there's like other things that come up within our psychic talents that we might miss a little bit. But mostly it invites the paranormal investigator to sort of ask newer, better questions. And I don't mean like the paranormal investigator who is already doing that, but like if we're already proficient in speaking with spirits, let's say, using these methods, and we've had the experience under our belt through time practicing these communication methods, but like what questions can we ask about our psychic talents and how to expand that using everything that we know? And foundationally, like what I found, this isn't revealing anything in the paper, but it's relational. It has to do with relationship. It's not necessarily collective, but I like to think about it how communication happens between person to person and how that evolves in our material world, and how we can apply that to sort of speaking with spirits. And it comes up through a musical phenomenon called, I always miss the word, but I know it in my heart, resonance. Resonance is like a natural musical or just sound making thing that happens. And so relational and resonance are two key concepts in my paper that just expand what we could be doing a little bit.
Nice. Love that. Let's see, Megan said, geez, never even heard of that. Y'all teach us so much. And that's why we do the symposium, friends. We want to give visibility to the people who are doing, really good research and bringing new ideas or expanding on things that already exist and diving deeper and looking for other things. So yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So speaking of, Megan, just letting everyone know, this is an interactive show. So if you have questions for Skyler or Kjersti, feel free to put them in the chat and we will showcase them. You can get your 30 seconds of fame on our vast YouTube and Facebook presence. And we'll go from there. Great. Next question for both of you. Since you're both creatives, can you recall a moment when the paranormal intersected with your creative life in an unexpected way?
I can jump in on that. So I don't even know when it like popped up, because it feels like it's been in my entire life. Like how creativity and sort of spirituality have like mixed for me. But I feel like I have had an entire novel series dumped into my brain, like that I didn't really conceive. And so I started writing down these ideas and writing down sort of not only like the plot details, but like what was happening around like in my life that like made these things come to fruition. It's a very interesting project. I haven't started writing it. I rarely talk about it, but it's a very important part of my work, is trying to get this novel series out there, because I think it would be interesting to see how people receive something that doesn't necessarily feel like it was my idea, but it's all in my head.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very profound question, and I like it a lot, because like Skyler, I feel like sometimes these ideas that I have, whether I'm writing or creating artwork, I'm a photographer too, and I do like mixed media, it's not me. Like, I don't want to say I'm channeling. I don't know. It's just something comes over where I'm like, I need to put this here. This needs to go here. I need to design it this way. I need to write it that way. And I do think the creative process in and of itself is a spiritual experience. And it's ironic that I've never thought of it as paranormal and spiritual. I mean, that's kind of a Venn diagram when you think about it. But I think just among music, I was a musician earlier in my life, as an artist, as a performer. There's just, the muse is there. And I think if you are being honest with yourself and you're doing what you want to do in life, that synchronicity or that higher self, whatever it is, can come forth through you in the art and the work that you create. Yeah. So that's what I can make of it so far.
Nice. Kjersti, I don't know if you've heard of a man named Brian Bates, but he had written a book called The Way of the Actor. And he makes the argument that actors are modern day shamans. They create a bridge between like fantasy and reality, and they have the ability to transport audiences, especially in theater, to like different planes of existence. You might be interested in
Yeah.
that.
I got to write that down. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
on it.
I'll send it to you too. Because I have a theater degree. I have a master's in theater, so I'm a super theater nerd. So did a lot of research into like that, like how theater is a liminal space, and
Yes.
especially spiritually, theater has always been a very spiritual experience from its evolution from oral history, oral storytelling. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Let's see. So, next question, because you both have very unique personal identities. How does your personal identity, whether queer, neurodivergent, artistic, shape the way you experience or interpret paranormal phenomena?
Ooh.
I know it's
I'll
deep
go.
questions.
I got this one. So I actually have something called synesthesia. It's a blending of senses. So I see words in color. I hear in color. I think in shapes. It's one of those things where I was like, doesn't everybody do that? And then I read a book by Oliver Sacks, Dr. Oliver Sacks, the late great, and he wrote about that and how some people have perfect pitch and how some people just have these kind of unique abilities in their brain that don't really seem to serve any kind of evolutionary purpose. Like, the best way I can describe it is when you go to Google, you know how Google is written in like a blue letter and then a red letter and then a green letter. That's how I see everything. I know that I know my name down there is in black font, but every letter has an aura. Every letter has a color. Every sound has a color. And so as being a musician and a writer and a performer most of my life, I feel that everything innately has some sort of spiritual quality to it. If the letters and the vernacular and the alphanumeric text I see has a personality and a color, what are the implications for everything else in the universe, you know? And so that's kind of helped me to create my work and my art, just because I see it all in a final form in my mind's eye. And I've learned that there's some people that don't have that. And it's called aphantasia, and they don't have a mind's eye. And I'm like, what must that be like? Because I see everything already in my mind. And I feel like Skyler might be the same way, nodding. So it just, to me, everything's innately spiritual. And so it seems right to follow this path and continue my work and my art when that's how I see the world anyway.
Nice. Skyler.
I think, okay. So because I have many identities, especially the two that you brought up, queer and neurodivergent, those are very weighty sometimes, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Being queer, I will say there's a lot of talk in the queer paranormal community about liminality and our constant transitional states as queer people being sort of a liminal way to be. And that comes from a long sort of like anachronistic history. Like we say these new age things about it now, but a long history of queer people having been spiritual representation in their communities. It's cross-cultural, right? And so I appreciate that sort of way to invite it to the new age, because it's important that queer people are recognized for being at all, but then also recognized for being uniquely them. And one of the things I've never shied away from telling people is like, yeah, I have these abilities. I can see, I can hear spirits, whatever it is that's talking to me, I can hear it. And so I'm very honest with myself in that, but it also carries on a different importance, which is community, right? Like queer community is super important to me, standing up for trans people, for women of color, right? And I think it only makes me a stronger advocate for humanity to integrate these things in the paranormal, right? And I'm not saying that it's my job, but I also feel like it's part of why I'm here. And I'm like happy to do it too, you know? And with the neurodivergence, that's another conversation. I think that's a lot harder for me to answer, but what I will say about it is that it is not unimportant. Like it is actually so vitally important to understand your psyche, especially when you're experimenting with this stuff, to keep yourself safe, to keep others safe, and to learn from what has happened in the past and carry on a different future that isn't so riddled with trauma and intergenerational struggle, right? So
yes. Ooh, speaking my language there. See, Liminal Sister says creativity as a form of channeling is so interesting. Love this idea. Then John Michael says, I have a friend with oh my gosh, you need to say it again for me, Kjersti. Synesthesia. Okay. Synesthesia. Okay. So interesting. Yay. It's so interesting to me. Yeah. Whew, that's a big word for me. Awesome. Well, thank you both for answering this question and expanding on it, with such grace, and love it. Love it. This is why you're both coming. You're both speaking for the symposium. Let's see. So another question for both of you, then we'll go to your own individual works and whatnot. So let's see. What does ethical storytelling look like when you're dealing with real people's haunted histories or spiritual encounters?
I can try. I think ethics hard.
Okay.
But I think storytelling, as a storyteller, I've always thought of it as I'm a thief. This isn't my story to tell, but I have the unique skill set to tell it, to write it down, to make a video about it, to make it make sense to an audience. And I think that part of it that's a sticky storyteller thing that we always deal with, is just like, how do we make this relevant without taking away the truth? And I think the biggest thing for me is like, is the relational storytelling, is that whole conglomerate of what happens around that story, is it consensual? Like, it doesn't have to be contractual, just like, were we honest with ourselves, and were we intending the same things to get whatever out of the impact from an audience, right? I'm always thinking about, and I don't tell stories of about other people very often. I actually am very just like, it's my experience. This is my experience. So but I have had this experience more recently. I just came out with a documentary, actually, paranormal documentary called Heirloom. Yeah. And it's about my trauma and how I explored the haunting that was my family's trauma. Right. And so how did I ethically know that my family was going to be safe during that storytelling? I talked to them for 3 years about it. It was a huge project. It wasn't something that I was just flippantly doing. It was a huge agreement between the people in my family to tell this story honorably for the people who had passed.
Nice. Wow. Beautiful. Kjersti.
Yeah. That is a beautiful response. Hard to go after that, but I agree on a lot of things too. I like that you said, as a storyteller, you kind of feel like a thief, and I feel that way too. I like the language that you used for that, because as we're talking about the paranormal, this is all theory anyway. Nobody really knows. We love the journey. We love the pursuit of talking about different theories of the paranormal and sharing each other's experiences. And as a part of just the ethical part of that storytelling, it's just my personal ethics is just, I'll like you, Skyler, I'll talk all day about stuff that's happened to me. I don't care what you think. With all due respect, if you're not, why are you tuning into the paranormal if you're not into it? So I will share my stories, but I have to be careful when people tell me their own stories and investigations that I've been on. I assisted an investigation of a business that didn't want it known it was haunted. They were legitimately scared about the crazy stuff happening. And they were like, what do we do? Well, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're in for, because not everybody's into the paranormal like we are. I mean, spoiler alert, that I want to keep people anonymous. So there are some actual true stories in my presentation, but they're anonymous. I'm not going to say where they were or even what road it happened on. So you have to be careful, especially with not everybody thinks the paranormal is X, Y, or Z. They might think it's scary or demonic, just depending on their own cultural and religious overlay. So I want to be sensitive to that. But if I find like people like us, and we're just like, oh my God, I'm into that too. Like, okay, go. We'll, the gloves are off. Let's talk weird. But it should be a safe place to talk about weird things.
Yeah.
And it is.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right. We're going to start diving into specific questions now. So, Skyler, first question is for you. Can you tell us more about the Paranormal X Queer Archival Project? So, what inspired it, and why is this work important right now?
Okay, so it was something that I really wanted to start because I needed something sustainable in the paranormal world. Like, I think as somebody who is a writer, I tend to get caught up in the like, okay, well, if I have to sell this out. Like, I have to sell this out to do something with it. But with the archive, I was really just like, I really feel like this is an important time right now, just like in history. And if I can like congruently gather paranormal stories and the more material or like political or just real world stories, what happens like when that all that information is just in one place for people to gather and research? Because what if there's a question or an answer even lying in all of that stuff that someone can just come to one day? And so it's really just a special collections like effort, and a lot of it is my own material because I've been working on it so heavily. I haven't been able to push the archive to a larger audience as much. My socials are very low, but I have a very quality audience, and so I know that the people who follow me want this project to work out for me. So the first part of it is just gathering people's stories, and I have a very specific way you can go do that on Substack. But then the second thing is just to gather items and other sort of archival materials into the archive from other people's cases, other people's research, and it's a very simple sort of thing. Like, you give me the copy, and I hold on to it, and that's what it's there for. And honestly, I don't have like a business like goal right now. But if I did, I really want to have a location where people can visit and research on this side of the country. Because I think what's also cool is that I'm in Spokane, Washington. It's like, it could be a reason for people to come over here and see our haunts and make this place a cool. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I will say, as a former West Coast resident who moved to the East Coast, the resources paranormally is vastly different between the West Coast and the East Coast. And I mean, I think the West Coast has a lot of potential to catch up. But yeah, it's going to take some work. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's some untouched territory over on the West Coast, especially in Washington.
Yes. We just did a Bigfoot investigation, camping, and that was it was insane. We didn't catch him, obviously, but like, it was just,
yeah, he's right back here.
Sorry, he's in my closet. Yeah, no. But the environment here too is incredible, and just there's so many untouched places that people can go and still experience paranormal. You don't have to be in a haunted hotel or anything. You can just go to the woods and be careful, but like, something will happen.
Disclaimer, be careful.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Kjersti, next question is for you. So, how do your degrees in psychology and rhetoric shape how you interpret hauntings or spiritual phenomena?
I knew you were going to ask this. Yeah, so I double majored in psych and English with an emphasis in rhetoric and critical theory. So I like to just tell people I can bullshit really well. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that. But but I studied those because I was interested in them at the time, not because I was going to be an English teacher or a psychologist. Like, can you imagine? But I studied them because I was interested in how language affected them. How language affects your thinking and how thinking affects your language, and that kind of interesting relationship. And maybe that's because of the synesthesia that I didn't know I had until after college. There's just this kind of subliminal influence in that. But as far as how it's shaped the paranormal, it certainly helped me understand people's stories with a little more critical mindset. just having some basic psychology and just understanding how people interpret events, because perception is reality. Whether or not it is reality, the perception thereof is that person's reality. And if they're seeing their dead grandmother at the foot of the bed talking to them, that can be traumatic, or it could be really interesting and really powerful and shape your life. And so it's helpful for me to have that kind of toolkit of psychology and English and storytelling and writing and music, because then I can tell your stories better. I can tell other people's stories. Like when I do my ghost tours as well too, is just to kind of be that person's voice, and kind of get into that character too. And that theater training certainly helps as well, Alex. So that's a great question. I hope I answered it.
Yes, no, that was lovely. Yeah, that's awesome. Nice. All right, Skyler, I'm going to toss the ball back to you. So, as someone who blends, I mean, because you have a lot of tools in your tool belt. You blend writing, research, and mediumship. So when you're having a moment of connection spiritually, how do you know which tool to use? With shufflemancy, writing, tarot, like how do you decide which tool to leverage?
I generally feel like I'm guided towards the tool. I'll kind of tell you how I started too. I started reading tarot very early on because it felt like the way. Like it felt like the way to understand what was happening inside me, and like also sort of show myself how to progress through the story of tarot. And I learned under somebody who was an incredible instructor, Saray Jarrell Johnson. He doesn't do it any longer. I think he does a lot of herbalism, but he taught me how to also do tarot for left-leaning politics. And so it was like an interesting blend of like, well, I have these tools and they keep being built up to these weird things. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I think at the end of the day, I situate things into projects. I'm like, okay, so this is what needs to happen for Trident Flight, which is my novel series, right? My more fiction thing. And that consists of these steps. And I allow the channeling or the mediumship to sort of happen along the way. And I allow for a longer period of time. But that's how I was guided to do that. Some of the other stuff, like, I don't know, like investigating or even just writing the newsletter for the archive, that's a lot of effort on me, like a lot of just brain effort that I'm like, okay, how do I make this real for other people, or how do I tell the story in an impactful way that doesn't need belief, because I can't bank on people like believing in this thing and seeing what I see and how brilliant that is. So making it just like more interesting, I think, is what mediumship really does for me. I've been told like I'm really good at what I do. But I think I'm so new to it, really. Like if I'm thinking about it all in retrospect, I'm so new to it. I think I still have a long way to go. And I think my spirits are constantly informing me, like, wait, you're ADHD, like, wait, like stop going in a million different directions. And I just want to see how this life path plays out so that I can write about it, because my ultimate goal in life is just like, if there was a baby me born again, that I want somebody to have a little manual to be like, this is how you get through a life. Like, this is how you get through this tough crap that happens, and how to make it fun and worthwhile. Because I think a lot of the reason I'm so connected to the paranormal is because for a long time, sorry, my cat's just like wandering around. I'm trying to get him out.
All good. Mine are too.
But like for a long time in my childhood, I didn't want to live. Like, that's just the honest truth. And so I think this thing clicked in me, which is like, there is a reason that I'm still here living. And I think that's to do spirit work, to do weird things spiritually. And half the time, I think I don't even know that I'm really doing it. I think I'm just guided to these places, and then the right thing happens, and then beautiful things are born. I'd like to tell you that it's a lot more predictable, but it's it's not.
Nice. Well, that was lovely. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, let's see. John Michael says it's not a paranormal discussion without cats wandering around. When he was doing the speaker series a few weeks ago, he also had his cat wandering around. So I swear we could have like a total like cat sub programming with the symposium.
They see ghosts. They're just into it like we are.
You know, I got 3 nearby right now, so
Yeah.
they're all
Mine's
all
just
around.
waiting for dinner.
That's important.
Yeah.
All right. Kjersti, next question is for you. You've once described yourself as leaving the world a little weirder than you found it. Love that, by the way. What's one weird moment that changed your outlook on life or the paranormal?
One weird moment
Pick one, just one.
that changed my outlook on life or the paranormal. Oh, that's a good one. I need a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
This one? Can I use this? No. I had a spirit box thrown at me once. That was weird.
That is weird. And
yeah,
alarming.
that was on the undisclosed haunted mansion that the owners don't know what to do. Let's call the ghost hunting group, so I can't disclose it. There's my ethics. But yeah, I mean, we're sitting in the basement like you do, and sometimes you're there for like an hour and nothing happens, and you're just like, ugh. But it doesn't happen on your schedule. And the irony in this is that I'm presenting on residual hauntings when this was definitely not a residual haunting. This was very conscious and very, what's the word? Tricksterish, very just like the paranormal has a sense of humor. And we're sitting in the basement and we've got, we got our GoPros and our gear and we have like a device over here that blips up and then we have the cat balls over there. And we're just kind of sitting in a half moon and just sitting there trying to be quiet and not saying anything. And we all saw out of the corner of our eyes just something like a black shadow in one room. The light turns on. I feel my hair go back. The cat balls over there move and light up. I mean, it's like a little tornado. And then I just said, wow, is someone there? And the spirit box that was not saying anything, just on there was like a beam because we were in a basement right in front of me, just went boom, and it landed right at my feet. And I was like, do it again. You either run away and you're like, peace out, I'm done, I'm never doing this again. Yes. Or you have a sense of humor and you're just like, okay, yeah, do that again. That's what we're here for. And it didn't do it again. But we had it all on camera. We're sitting there, nothing happening for 45 minutes, and then a little and somehow that was going to answer the question, but I got excited remembering it. But it was weird. Like, it was just like, okay, well, it's not always a ghost talking to you. It can just be a series of synchronicities that are intelligent that just normally wouldn't happen. And I live for that. That was so fun. And then nothing happened the rest of the night. So it was just like, okay. I mean, in that particular room. So it's just bizarre. Like you can't just go in all like Ghost Adventures and expecting to see a full body apparition. Sometimes you're going to get a voice. Sometimes you're just going to get a weird thought in your head. Sometimes you're going to hear something. Like, it's not glamorous by any means, but that to me is the appeal sometimes, is that it just can be what you don't expect.
Yeah. Nice. Rochelle said the paranormal has a sense of humor. Yes. It always happens that way. Like, you're investigating and sometimes it's often unpredictable. So,
yeah.
All right. Next question is for both of you. What is something the paranormal community could learn from the artistic and literary world?
I hear a cat and it's making me laugh. It's not mine.
He's begging for dinner. I can't stop him. He won't
Maybe
shut
he
up
knows
until
the
we're
answer.
off. Yeah, maybe.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
What's something that the paranormal... Yeah, I think there's a slight delay. We're going to ride the wave. What is something that the paranormal community can learn from the artistic and literary world?
I think just to have that innate sense of curiosity and questioning reality, that's kind of what artists do. Whether we're fed up with reality or just have a different interpretation of it. And we're like, wait a minute, I don't see the world the way you do. I need to create some way. I have this inner landscape that just needs to come out. And I feel like it's very reciprocal with the paranormal, because the paranormal is this strange reality that feels this need to come out. And whether you can tune into it or you can try to, whether you're intuitive or not, I don't know. It's just, they can both be reciprocal, and to just always question, and don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Don't be afraid to ask different questions. And you put that energy out there, it will come back to you in some form. So just being open to that. So I think they're both kind of almost two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
I'll continue that thought, actually, because I've just ran into this, like, I don't know, maybe rabbit hole lately, that like spiritual people, artistic people, creative people, paranormal people, kind of people that just like bridge that gap, are talking a lot about sort of mapping dream worlds, which is an interesting concept. Like thinking like, yes, art, and I think my paper does a really good job of exploring this too, which is like, yes, like I think creatives and psychics are on the same sort of wavelength in terms of how we can conceptualize these dream worlds and make them real for people. And I think when people are kind of taking the more spiritual route to it, they're interested in exploring new, different, emergent things that are coming out of either a paradigm shift or like sort of just a response to what's going on in the world, because every moment is different, right? And it calls for different sort of responses. That's kind of where my interest lies, actually, is cataloging at least as many of the experiences in shufflemancy as possible, to see if when somebody else takes the same research and goes and does it, what then comes out of that. And not only like just mapping the dream world, but also like all of the archetypes or entities or deities that come up, any symbolic thing that comes up in those messages, just sort of cataloging that. And I think how that will be impactful for like a wider public audience, people who are reading these stories have like we're tapping into that imagination, that imaginal place. And I think that when people read these stories, they can dream brighter futures, dream better futures. And I think that that's kind of what I would hope to get out of that, is that all of this work we've been doing, researching the past and all the history of the haunts, and then, you know, more nuanced stuff with quantum mechanics and consciousness, right? That it kind of that bridges the gap. Like if we're, let's say, as a society suffering under capitalism or colonialism or whatever, how can we dream a better future? Like what, and can it come from these dream worlds that give us these huge symbolic ideas? So that's like a pipe dream, but I'd hope that it's viable in some respect.
I love it. I think in like the cataloging of people's experiences is so important, to find patterns and commonalities and just believe people when they say they have these experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. That was awesome from both of you. Yes. So next question for the two of you. What's one misconception about the paranormal world that you wish people would let go of?
That everything's a demon. Just stop it already. I'm sorry. I'm over it. Like, stop.
That is the tea.
It's not evil. But again, you go into the paranormal. I believe that you get what you expect. If you go into a dark abandoned asylum and it's going to be full of creepy monsters, like, you're going to experience that. And now whether that's a premonition type of thing and that really happens, we should be exploring that too. Like, that's amazing. Or I think you just get what you come for. And I go into places with just like an open mind. And just because something got thrown at me, just because I heard a growl, doesn't mean it's evil. I don't know. I'm just take the energy with what you have and be open-minded to it. You don't have to attribute a personality to something. Sorry. See, I get all hot and bothered. Not a demon, Zach Bagans. Come on.
I know, right?
Yes. And maybe that's because I personally don't believe in demons. Maybe I'm going to regret that. I don't know. I feel like if I don't believe in it, I'm stronger than anything that could scare me.
I love that. Love it.
In
Love
my
it.
experience with mediumship, I feel like demons are very specific. They aren't what everybody thinks they are. Like, I think it's a very specific experience. And yeah, I would say the misconception, just to follow that, is just like the fear-based response. I think one of the coolest things that paranormal investigators do is transform it from being fear into fun. And I think, like, at the end of the day, like, if you can do that with the paranormal, you're going to have a blast. You're going to have the greatest time if you can start transforming these fear-based emotions into something great for yourself and for other people that you're hanging out with.
Nice. All right. Perfect. Your cat's meow because it's very like.
I'm trying not to laugh.
Like
he doesn't want to jump up to show himself, but he's just sulking over here waiting for dinner.
It's very grumpy old man, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, he's unique. He's very unique.
He's a mood.
And he's not that old, which is the funniest part.
I love it. I love it. All right. All right. Love this meow. That's like our spokesperson for the symposium. It's decided.
Great.
So 2 more questions for both of you before we wrap up for the evening. If you could visit one place, paranormal space, whether haunted, spiritual, charged, what place would that be?
I want to say something like, I don't know, maybe the or what is it called? The Delphi, the amphitheater, Delphi's amphitheater. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what the official name is. I wanted to go for the sound effects, like, you know, with shufflemancy music, just to hear, because my mediumship, like, oh my gosh, Chandler, it comes through my ears, right?
Chandler? That's even better.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. I really don't. But
we love him. He's great. Keep going.
But I think about the amphitheater just like amplifying the sound enough to have a religious experience or a spiritual experience or whatever. Channing, come here. So that'd be my pick. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
That is a good question. All your questions are good questions, but I feel like I would go to some like ancient ruins, like Easter Island, or like some of these new places that we're uncovering. That, I mean, just the stuff that we grew up hearing about ancient ruins. Like, there's more stuff. Like, there's more stuff being discovered. There's Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. There's these secondary Nazca lines that they just discovered. I just watched a documentary on PBS, and I'm like, why isn't anybody talking about this? Like, I would go to places like that, because I feel like there's, you know, ancient ruins, supernatural, paranormal, maybe alien. I feel like it's just kind of all part of the same mesh of energy that we apparently understood many thousands, tens of thousands of years ago, and we've lost that ability. And I would love to just go stand in the middle of like the pyramids or something and just, I don't know, bring equipment, just be passive, just be in that moment. I would love to feel what the ancients felt in places like that. And we just don't really have that in Wisconsin. So it just would require a lot of traveling. But if money was no issue, I would go to some weird energy force field ley line type of place.
Yeah.
Right?
John Michael says Chandler's his spirit animal, by the way, Skyler.
You know, you can have him if you want. Just kidding.
No, it's Chandler. Pick him up.
He's my baby. He's just so annoying.
Most babies are. Yeah, no, wonderful. All right, perfect. So last question for both of you. What are you both working on that you are excited about?
I can say that from this paper that I've written, it's blossoming into something greater. I like to say that it's one of my special like autism like interests that like I didn't want to do it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put together the thing because it seems necessary now. After I wrote the paper, I've been sitting on it, just editing it for the longest time, and I love it so much. And I'm like, I think this thing needs to be bigger. And so I'm currently doing the research to make it bigger. And I kind of want to do it quickly because I would like it to be out there quickly. So I'm hoping for a Shufflemancy book.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Put it out there. It'll happen. I'm in a similar, it's this, the revisiting and researching the stone tape theory. What I'm hoping to get out of it, I mean, just more opportunities, more meeting more people, having these discussions. I think that is the ultimate goal, is just this network of minds that are pathologically curious, that just, they want to understand and meet people that have different theories and bounce those ideas, because that's what years from now, that's what the future of science and studying the paranormal, it comes from people like us that are questioning things and being the weird one and having these questions and being interested in it and talking about theory. So I'm just hoping for more. I'm not hoping, oh, we've solved the paranormal or anything like that. You know, I never want to know the answer, and at least in my current form.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that just being able to have these discussions and keep having opportunities to talk about weird stuff, especially in Gettysburg, whew, that's what I want. And I know that's what we're going to get.
Yep. Yeah. Amazing. Well, this was a lovely conversation. I really enjoyed I know I enjoyed talking to both of you and Chandler. I appreciated Chandler's input throughout the evening. Perfect. So for those of you who are watching and tuning in, we will have Kjersti at the symposium presenting her paper, her topic on the stone tape theory, and then Skyler will be presenting via webinar right before the symposium. So it'll happen around the same time. So it'll still be in the spirit of things. Unfortunately, Skyler will not be able to join us in person, but we're going to make sure that we are able to include them in the symposium preps and festivities. So perfect. Yeah. So y'all are getting some love in the chat as soon as it pops up. Thank you both. Very informative. Look forward to August. And then got some love from Rochelle. Was awesome. So yay. Wonderful. Yeah. So before I let you go for the evening, would you mind telling us where we can find you? And let's start with Skyler.
Yeah, so mostly I'm on Instagram at Skyler's period schematonics. It's a funny little shufflemancy word I came up with. And the Substack Paranormal X Queer, I think it's just called Paranormal X Queer on Substack. You could type it in paranormalxqueer.substack.com. And that's where you'll find information about my archival project and how you can become a part of it. And those are, the two main places I want to siphon people into.
Nice. All right. Kjersti.
You can find me on Instagram. I think that's the only place I'm at. just Instagram. Oh, it's KJEE83. She 83.
Nice.
I'm giving my age, but that's where I am. I'm old school. I don't really, took me a while to even get on social media, but I'm glad I did, because now I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's me.
No, awesome. Well, perfect. Thank you both so much for joining me this evening. And I look forward to seeing your presentations during the symposium or the symposium week.
Thank you.
Can't wait. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Chandler.
Bye, Chandler. I know, right?
Oh, she's gone.
All right. So, before I let everyone go for the evening, wow, Restream is really going haywire tonight. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining me tonight, joining me with Skyler and Kjersti. And yeah, I hope you all can join us next week. We'll have another stream, same time, same channel. Yeah, and you get to meet more of the Symposium speakers. So thank you all so much for hanging out tonight. Be sure to go grab your tickets for the Symposium if you haven't already. The early bird special is ending tonight. So if you want to get your tickets,